Actually, the U.S. government prefers, depending on the project, to have local suppliers that are on the ground, that have familiarity with the territory, because they have access to a vendor pool that a foreign supplier may not have access to.
So what if I told you your next big client could be the US government without you ever setting foot in America? Every year, the US federal government spends over $700 billion, and billions of that are earmarked specifically for small business. But here's the catch. Most business owners around the world don't know how to access it, and they don't even know about this program. They don't know they can access it at all. That's the problem we're going to solve today. So I'm Paul Sweeney, hosting the Business Behind Your Business podcast. And today I'm joined by Eric Coffie, who's going to actually help us understand how can we access work from the government, contracts, even when we're based outside the US. Seems a bit of a strange scenario that we've got here, but Eric's the man that's going to help us uncover why that is the case here. Eric's the founder of GovCon Giants, which is a platform helping entrepreneurs break into the world of federal contracting. He's secured over 20 million in contracts. He's written 2 books on the subject. He's built a global community of small business owners who are now winning big in the US market. And the best part about it is he's here with us today, and he's going to help us learn how to break into the US government contracting space, even if we're based in Australia, the UK, Singapore, wherever you are in the world. He's going to help us uncover some of the kinds of opportunities that do exist for global small, medium businesses and which industries are in demand. And we're going to talk about money, how much money is really available and how you can position your business to win a slice of it. So Eric, he is a former construction business owner, but he's turned government contracting into a strategy. He is the go-to man through his platform, GovCon Giants. He's helped thousands of entrepreneurs understand and access the US federal marketplace. He's the author of the book, GovCon Launch, Practical Guide to Getting Started, and he was ranked #1 worldwide on procurement by Favicon. His mission is simple: help small business, no matter where they're located, tap into the world's largest and most consistent customer, the US government. Eric, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business.
Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Like, it's one of those topics. I mention that, and people go, "How is this possible?" Yet does not make sense. So, is it really true that a business outside of the US can get a contract with the US government?
Yes, actually, our U.S. government is set up to support businesses outside of the government. If you think about where our military installations are, they're all over across the world. Think about our embassies. All of those places need support. If you think about our allies, if you think about where we're docking ships, all of those things have to be refilled with food, fuel, commissary, supplies, all those things as we're traveling across the globe and support various missions, even humanitarian missions. All those things are supplied by outside contractors and vendors like your audience.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, that's amazing to think of, because I'm just looking around and thinking of the map of Australia, where all the US installations are, and joint projects, joint ventures. There is so much there. I think when we think of the US, we think of within the US and the borders, right, there. And we think, oh, that's pretty closed. But what you just described, very open.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and everyone around the world, just think about where you have any U.S. presence, right? All of those, the majority of all of the goods and services that they're operating from are being supplied by business owners, and a lot of them are small business owners.
Wow. Okay. So, and those small business owners, obviously, for what you're saying, they don't need to be US companies. They don't need to be based in the US. The US government will actually contract with local suppliers in those situations.
Oh, actually, the U.S. government prefers, depending on the project, to have local suppliers that are on the ground, that have familiarity with the territory, because they have access to a vendor pool that a foreign supplier may not have access to, right? So think about, if I'm coming to Sydney, I would not know who are the great roofers and plumbers and electricians. I wouldn't have access to that vendor pool. Whereas if I were to contract with a local vendor, you'd have access to the labor force, you have access to welders, and think about any types of trade contractors to help us accomplish whatever mission we're trying to accomplish.
Mm. So you mentioned a lot of trades in there, and I guess small suppliers of specialized products or particular services. I think when we think of contracts with the government, a lot of time we're thinking that is only the domain of big companies. But from what you've described, there are opportunities for small business.
Yeah, I think that that's just a misconception that people have is they assume they don't actually do the research, which is strange to me because all of us have in our hands the most powerful computer that we've ever had, that we've been on Earth, and we don't use it to do research. So I encourage all the listeners, this is very easy to do. You have AI, you've got Grok and ChatGPT and these different AI platforms or LLMs. You can literally say inside LLM, hey, I'm a vendor that provides blah, 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 blah services. Okay, what US government installations around me are likely to buy those services? And just put it in chat.
So the research is so much easier these days because we've got, as you said, it's in the palm of our hands.
Right.
We've got supercomputers there and the technology now, particularly with AI, to do that heavy lifting on the research.
Correct.
So that's the first step, I guess, is identifying which government departments exist nearby that I can supply to.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm more here to bring awareness to everyone, right? So I want to bring awareness to your audience that this exists. In fact, we actually need more businesses supporting the U.S. government, to be honest with you. I think all government needs more small and medium businesses supporting it, but I know particularly where we're at in the United States, our industrial base is shrinking, and we have not done a good job of encouraging younger business owners to come in and support this marketplace. When people think about the government, I understand they only get their feed from the news. So they only think about, right, the things that are happening up in Washington, the politics of it all, but not actually supporting the mission. And so for me, Paul, I believe in supporting the mission of doing good work for a lot of people. And so that takes all of us, not just a few of us.
Look, I'd probably go one step further and say that we, like a lot of people, don't even hear the news these days. They're just waiting on what somebody else is telling them.
Right.
But they're missing so much. And I think sometimes it's a case of I never heard about this. Well, why didn't you hear about it? Because you weren't actually making yourself or putting yourself in a position where you could receive that information.
Right.
So, you mentioned AI. Are there like forums or mailing lists that you can actually get onto to alert you when new opportunities arise, or do you just need to keep searching?
Oh, no. We have so in the United States, the biggest platform is a platform called sam.gov. So sam.gov. And that platform sends you alerts for a lot of the opportunities, both here locally in the United States and also foreign abroad opportunities. The reason why I suggested using AI is because I always encourage people to first understand, because when you go in there's a lot of stuff, Paul. So you're going to see hundreds of thousands of opportunities. So you're going to be like blown away by the sheer volume of opportunities that exist. And so for me, what I'm saying is that I think people should first look at it and say, okay, where am I able to sell? And then just look at those opportunities. Because if you just try to look at the whole landscape, I mean, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with the sheer volume of opportunities that exist.
Yeah, I think it'd be easy to miss if you're just looking at all the data. That one key piece that you need is probably not there. But if you come in with a very targeted approach,
right,
having already done some research, it's going to be a lot easier to uncover those opportunities.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. One of our agencies, it's called Defense Logistics Agency. That one agency alone, that's one government entity, they probably have somewhere 2,000 to 5,000 opportunities every day, daily. So you can't just, it's like eating 10 elephants, so it's just a lot to digest, which is why I always tell people to try to like have a understand, even if you were to limit it to say your country, that's a that limits it down, right? So find a way to just limit down your searches so you're not trying to eat the whole thing at once. It's just a huge volume. Just a volume of data is just massive.
Mm. So there's a lot of opportunity there in a lot of different areas, and as you're mentioning, like say 2,500 opportunities per day. That seems it's really mind blowing how much opportunity is there. Um, yeah, it's almost like we've said no, we don't want that before we even look at, well, what's in it for me? Well, what are the opportunities for me?
Sure. Well, I mean, for me, I guess I always try to find out what it is that you do, right? I mean, you can look at the list and search opportunities. In fact, on my YouTube channel, we're releasing opportunities daily, 3 to 5 a day, just to give people ideas. But I mean, a lot of times people have a business that they already do that they know, and so really, I would personally, again, most people don't care about fixing cars, so they don't care about fixing a car opportunity. Most people don't build ships or do anything with ships, so they don't care about ship. Like so. It's more from my standpoint, what is it that you can provide that you have access to sell the government to support them, and then look at those opportunities in your area.
Mm.
And they're really good with filtering and searches. So I mean, you could definitely filter down based on type of product, the industry you're in, the country, the city, the state. You can filter down. There's a lot of different filters.
Wow. My mind is starting to race with some of the opportunities because I'm just thinking through my client lists and the diversity of what they service, what they supply. And I'm just thinking, well, hang on, that could be supplied to the US government. That could be supplied. They do this particular service, but the US government needs that. They might,
Sure.
they might have somebody that needs to, I don't know, service the vehicles or supply a particular part or
Right.
consumables.
Yeah.
I, it's staggering, really, when you think about the number of opportunities that exist.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's enormous.
Wow. Look, what would be some of the industries where you see, I guess, the most demand for services or products?
So it changes with each administration. Right now, this administration is focused on a lot of tech and innovation. They've focusing on like shipbuilding. So we have some partnerships internationally with supporting ships and shipbuilding and all the things that go along with that. So all the parts, the components to make the ships, the raw materials to make the ships. So those are a lot of things. But I kind of mentioned we're building a couple military bases in Africa, off the coast of Africa. There's opportunities across there. The embassies are wide open. There's opportunities there. I've even seen people like they're looking like if you look at an installation, everything from managing the installation to bringing in the supplies to shipping out. So like all the logistics, think about the things coming in and off those installations, getting it to and from there. Huge demands, opportunities for people. So getting things to and from the installations, providing the goods and services to support the installations that are where you're at. And then, supporting the like you said, if you're bringing things off by truck or train or plane, all of those items also need to be supported.
Mm.
So tires, the wheels, the bearings, the oils, the change, all the things that go into that needs to be supported as well.
Mm. So, there's a lot of different, I guess, product services, but is that really is small business actually competitive with that kind of tendering? You mentioned tires and fuel and oils and stuff. Is that something really that a small business owner is I guess really in with a decent chance, because you've got these larger companies that can supply in bulk.
Right.
Is there a preference for a particular style of supplier?
So it's interesting that what I find is a lot of small businesses make that assumption. So that's a very good question, Paul. So we go, oh, they could buy in bulk. Correct. That's true. They can provide in bulk some items. Do you think that the large companies who have shareholders and stock for people to answer to offer big, huge discounts to the government? Do you think that's how they operate? Like, I mean, let's just talk about large businesses for a moment. Okay, you're an accountant. Anybody that knows a large business, let's take um, let's say, I don't know, pick a company, Cisco, right? Let's say Cisco. If Cisco is providing employees to the government and they're staffing up a project, right? Project managers, field technicians. Paul, you've heard of the term wrap rate?
Maybe just clarify what you mean by rate.
So wrap rate, so we talk about all the benefits that go with the employees that have to be added to the cost of it. So who do you think who can provide a better cost per person, the smaller guy or the big company who has all this overhead expenses, right? So if the person is $100,000 person, they're gonna bill them out at $200,000-300,000 to the government because they have all of the benefits and the plans at a really high, whereas a smaller company has a lower cost to operate, and so they can provide that same person at a discounted price to the government.
Yeah, so at a discounted price to the government, but not a discounted price for the small business because they're not adding
Oh
on.
yeah, but I'm saying but the small business, absolutely, because you just said that they have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's them winning. So let's say the same employee is $100,000. Okay, I got to pay this employee $100,000. Well, if my overhead is 40,000, I can bill it to the government for say 180. But the bigger company can't bill it to the government for 180 because their overhead is the 80, so they have to bill them out at 250. So the small business still gets to make the money and bill them out to the government to get it at a more affordable price. That happens across most of the things that we're seeing. All I'm saying is that the bigger companies do not actually offer the discounts that we're presuming that they do because they have all this overhead. So they don't pass that savings to the customer.
I see.
That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I'm just looking, say, with Australian employers, you don't start to pay those additional payroll taxes until your total payroll hits a certain threshold. Now, for most small businesses, they're well below that threshold. So they're not paying. We're talking about 6.5%, 7% loading on wages costs, just by payroll tax. So if you're not having to pay that, but your big business competitor is, well, yeah, you've got an advantage.
You have an advantage, yeah. And that's just one example, right? I mean, I think small businesses tend to look at themselves like they have a disadvantage. They're actually at an advantage. A couple of things that I've heard government complain about here in the United States. Today is Thursday. If the government calls you tomorrow, or let's say the government calls on Saturday, and they says, "Hey, we need this fuel for Saturday. For Sunday because a disaster happened, say an earthquake, a tornado." Well, the large business is closed. They can't respond over the weekend to make that order happen. You as a small business can. So I've seen our government take contracts from the larger companies because their responses were, the people were Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so if something happened outside those hours, they weren't as responsive. Unless they had a specific team on it, which again, if the contract didn't call for that, they didn't put that into their contract. So they're very, larger companies are more formal and boxed in and structured, right? Because they have org charts and authorities, and they've got to vote on decisions. Whereas a small to medium company can make quicker decisions because our governments, believe it or not, are not always as efficient as we believe they were to be. It's so oftentimes, they will have last minute things that need to be done, and the bigger companies can't even make decisions fast enough to where the government needs these things to happen.
So speed, response time, speed of decision making, they are your advantages as a small business owner.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Think about something happens. These are all real life scenarios where I've had government people complain and take contracts away from businesses because they said I can't talk to leadership on the weekends. So maybe, yes, you could talk to the big company's lower level employee, but he doesn't have a decision-making authority. So you're managing a building, the building floods, the employee can't decide what to do. He can't get leadership on the phone because it's the weekend until Monday.
Yeah. So that response, the ability for, I guess, small business is very adaptable, or can be very adaptable, particularly for this kind of situation. And yeah, so yeah, it is an advantage. I think that's a great way of looking at it. And I think we do, like, as a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, you do yourself a disservice when you say that you don't have the skills. Yeah, talk yourself up. You've got them. You've got to where you are.
Yeah, what I tell people is when you're putting your proposals together, these are the things that I would write in my proposals. Hey, we're managing this facility. All of our employees have direct authority to call leadership on the weekends in order to make a critical decision in the event of some sort of disaster. A large business will never write that because they don't care enough, because they have 100 projects. So they don't have they're not going to put anything like that in writing because they just have so much work that if they lose this one project, it doesn't affect their numbers.
So there's some key things there. Yeah, like you mentioned, to put in the proposal. In the book, do you actually go through some guidance on how to actually structure a proposal to government?
So in my book, what I talk about are how do you break into this marketplace? So I gave you a little bit of ideas, right? All the things. So the challenge about government contracting is, and I've said this in my books, it's not that the information does not exist. You don't know what to look for. So I have to tell you what to look for, and then you can go seek it out. So for example, one of the tricks that small businesses can do is, in the United States, before they put out a tender, they do research to see which small businesses have the capabilities to perform that tender. That is a requirement by the U.S. government. So what I tell small businesses is these are opportunities to get in front of a government customer before a tender ever comes out. And you could talk about who you are, what you do, your capabilities, and how you can help them. We here seek that out. But if you don't know that, then you don't know to look for it, you understand? So we talk about those things, right? How do you identify customers? How do you get in front of the customer before a tender ever gets released? How do you find what's coming out in the future opportunities before they're put in terms of a document? So that way you can prepare your team in order to be complete and be strong to respond to a tender. So these are the things that I put in the book.
So some real practical guidance, because I think a lot of small business owners will get overwhelmed thinking they'll start down a pathway. And I've seen this happen before. They started down the pathway with a government tender or a government contract, got confused on a particular term or not known how to answer or go forward, and then just abandon the opportunity, which is a real shame. But what you're actually doing here is helping provide that framework and that guidance through identification, but also the process of how to position yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this content I put on LinkedIn. So I'm a big LinkedIn person. Like I said, all I talk about is procurement. So I interview government officials. I just had an interview with the former Secretary of the Air Force here, Secretary of the Navy. So these are the people that run the entire Navy programs, the entire Air Force program for our military here, asking them, hey, what are we looking for? What's in the budget? So all these kind of things I put on my LinkedIn profile, and that's how we've been able to impact so many small businesses, because they just don't know, and it's too much information to put in a book. I mean, if I wrote that on the book, Paul, they'd never read it. It'd be a paperweight.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so your LinkedIn profile does have some absolute gold on there, some really useful tips. There's a quote I've picked up from the book where you've said the government and all its respective agencies are in a war to spend more and more money, with policies like use it or lose it, it's no wonder we've been on a spending tier since World War II. So you want to just explain a bit more about that quote?
So, in the U.S. and the way that our policies are set up in the United States, um, every agency has a budget. Okay, and so the policies are set up that if your budget, let's say, is 10 million, if you spend 9 million next year, you will get 9 million. So it's if you don't use it, you lose it. So it doesn't get to get rolled over like rollover minutes or anything like that. You don't get to carry over the million. They take it away from you and give it to someone else. So every agency is constantly at the end of the year, like they have to spend the entire budget regardless of any other circumstance. That is the biggest priority that they all have.
Hmm. And just for clarity, the end of the year, when we're talking about US government, what month are we looking
Our
at?
fiscal year is September 30th.
September 30th. Okay.
That's our fiscal year.
So really, if you're not looking at any other time of the year, that July through to September period, absolutely get your skates on and get working on it.
We're probably spending 2/3 of our money in that last quarter.
Okay, it's funny. We're laughing at this and just thinking it's a bit crazy, but I'm going to come out and say the US government is not the only government that does this
I'm sure there
in
were
terms of budgeting.
right.
Because I'm well aware of government departments in Australia, particularly, and I know from talking to people around the globe that this is also the case. They work on that same kind of policy that if you don't spend what we give you, we're not going to give you the same amount next year. So we see all these orders and we just go, okay, right, you want to buy 10 new computers. Do you want us to install them? No, we just need to spend the money. Just give us the invoice.
Yeah. Right. By the way, do you even need 10 computers? No.
No.
The computer, we already have 10 new ones sitting here, but we bought 10 more computers. So I've always thought we need a Department of Common Sense. We still haven't found it yet.
I don't think anybody really wants to start that though, because nobody wants to admit they were wrong.
No, that's true, right? And I don't think that's popular to talk about, right? So it's like, okay, this is a bad policy. I mean, I've participated in some really backwards policies before.
All right. So bring it all home, Eric. A couple of things key things, and chime in if I've missed something here. But okay, firstly, we don't need to be a US company or citizen to contract with the US government.
No, you do not.
We can start small, and in fact, it's an advantage to be a small business in many of the contracting fields.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, good. I'm on the right track. US government, is it a reliable long-term client that we should be trying to obtain on our books?
I mean, for us, I've never had the U.S. government default on me. So if the U.S. government defaults on any of us, I think we're all in trouble. And we got a bigger problem than that, right?
Absolutely. So just bring it all home. If you've ever thought about government contracts and thought they were out of reach, what we've heard today is that is completely wrong. Eric has just proved to us that we can do business with the government, whether we're a startup or whether we're in Sydney, Cape Town, Singapore, Manchester, wherever we are. US federal market could be our next big client wherever we are based. We don't even have to set foot in the United States to do that. Look, I feel like we've got a great starting point here, but there's more that we can do. Check out Eric's LinkedIn profile, which we'll put a link to in the show notes and also on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website. Link to Eric's LinkedIn profile, and also importantly where you can get a copy of the GovCon launch book. Lots of free resources to help you get started and help you actually cash in on some of these contracts that are available for small business from the US government. Eric, is there anything that we've missed? Anything key that somebody should get started with today?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned, Paul, is, and you kind of touched on this, mindset. So I think the mindset, we have to think about, most of the challenge with people when they're starting this is they've already talked themselves out of it. and they go, "Oh, that sounds good, but it's not for me. Oh, it's not possible." And so, what I like to say is, I was the same guy. I didn't have a lot of resources when I started this, um, and someone told me about it, kind of like I'm telling you about it, and I just started doing my homework and start learning and understanding the process. And once you understand the process, then in my book, you have a tremendous advantage over any company of any size. In fact, many of the larger companies would like to do this, but they don't know how. So if you understand procurement and how it works, you've got a huge advantage even over some of the larger companies who's got more money and resources than you have. So just I would caution people to have an open mindset and not to essentially put up their own barriers in front of themselves, because they don't exist. They're only the false ones that you created.
Absolutely. Great way to finish up. We'll put all those links in the show notes, and also the link to the sam.gov website. Is that
Yeah.
the correct place? And as always, like, reach out, follow Eric on LinkedIn. He shares some absolute gold in some of his posts, lots of good content. But don't say no to yourself. Say yes. Say, I'm going to do this, and get started today. Eric, thank you again for sharing some incredible content with us today, and some incredible opportunities for small business.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for having me today.